Here.
Lindeman?
Here?
Edrow?
Here.
Snyder? Thorne?
Here.
Weber?
Here. I motion that we excuse Mr. Snyder and Mr. Fredericks tonight, as I mentioned that they would be absent.
I second.
Motion by Nedrow, second by Thorne. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. That brings us to approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as submitted.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, it looks good. Okay, motion by Lindman, second?
Thorne?
Second by Thorne. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Brings us to public hearing. We have none.
The minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, approval of the minutes. I'd like to hear a motion to approve, unless anybody saw anything. I read them all. I didn't see anything in there, but you guys have anything, please say.
Good to me.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Clark. Weber,
Weber.
I'm sorry.
Second
Jeez,
by
Weber.
Lindman.
Second by Lindman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right, so that brings us to public hearing. We have one, none, and, sorry, James. And correspondence, we have none, and there's no call to the public. So that brings us to new business. Item A, appoint board member as liaison to ZBA for the remainder of 2024. So that's, I think I missed something. What happened? Who's gone?
Brendan's sitting
I had to
here.
resign.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a
yeah.
couple months ago for me. Yeah, okay, got you. I am unfortunately not able to do that. We usually try and stick it on who's ever not here, so the two people that didn't
Well,
show up.
Frederick,
Yeah, yeah,
I think there's two people that are.
I have a feeling that the three aren't here, probably wouldn't want to be on.
Right. I know what. So Patrick, you were thinking about it maybe, and then you were thinking about it as well, but.
Yeah, I currently sit on the ZBA as a full-time member, so.
Oh, okay, well, then you're already going to the meetings then.
I
He's
am,
going.
certainly.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that's
So-
smart.
So that's a natural then.
I've offered my support with that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's what
But if
we
you
wanna
really
do.
want to be on, I mean, he could still stay on as a regular ZBA member.
No, that's okay. I'm on Parks and Rec already as the liaison, and, I thought if we were hurting for one, I would do it, but if we got, yeah.
Well, he would have to resign as a permanent ZBA and just be a.
And be the liaison.
The
Right.
liaison, but
So then we'd need another
Oh,
member.
you're
Still would
Right.
be another
Yeah.
ZBA member. I see.
If I lose the election in August, I'm happy to then submit
All right.
my name in.
You want to table this till next meeting then?
20% chance.
and we're not going to have a meeting in August anyways, I guess, right?
Yeah, I
At this
mean,
point, for ZBA, I believe, maybe?
I mean, do you still want to think about it, Patrick, or?
No, I mean, I'm.
ZBA has no meeting
fine.
next month?
You're fine?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine to carry through with that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also fine to table if you wanted, but no, I mean, I'm.
Let me
whatever
ask
the board-
Tabitha.
Whatever the board would like. really.
Tabitha, have we had anybody apply for that position at all?
Need to get the word out.
It's out, we put it everywhere.
It's out every day, yeah.
Because water board, if there's a couple boards that need members, and we're getting no response.
And is it correct, we only have one alternate right now? On ZBA? So we're
Kathy.
still shy. We would-
Kathy, who used to be on the.
Right, yeah, she's the alternate, current
I
alternate, but,
believe so.
but right now, if he resigns, we'll be down a member, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he's already there anyway, he can just report on what's they're meeting about. That seems to
Yeah,
me
but they'll be down a
perfect.
member, is what I'm saying.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
can he be the liaison
I mean,
without?
He already is.
Without,
Well, Brandon's the liaison now, and Brandon can't.
Right, but he
So
can't
Brandon's
make-
be coming off as a member. So
So-
they're gonna be short a member.
got you. So Patrick can't be a
Even though if Patrick,
liaison
if
unless
Patrick
he's
can be
sit
a
down.
liaison, but he has
Has
to
to
resign
sit
as a
down.
regular
Okay.
member, so they're gonna be short a member.
Yeah, that's no good. Yeah.
Or one body short anyway.
One body short.
Yeah.
I guess
okay.
it won't really, it would equal out either way,
It's the same.
you know what I mean? Because we're gonna need one of you, a liaison, we'd be short a liaison, because Patrick's not, if he's on planning, he's gonna have to resign.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's no good.
yeah, but what
It
I'm
would-
saying is if Patrick takes that position and Brian doesn't get on, right, if he doesn't wanna get on, they'll be short a member. because Brandon's gonna be coming off as a liaison. Patrick's already on it. So if Patrick's liaison, he has to resign as a board member. Brandon's already gonna be off, so they'll be short two. Then he goes on as liaison to planning, so they're still down one.
Yes,
Follow?
it's more important to have him as a member of the board than the liaison, to report to us.
Okay.
So,
Well, we need a liaison anyways on that board, so.
Right.
Oh, then, do we motion to table this until
I-
after the election? to see
I
what
think
happens
so,
with George?
yeah, I think so.
Well, maybe one of your
And maybe
other
one of the other
members-
two or three
Yeah, or one of
might.
the other,
When you
yeah,
have a
exactly.
full,
Probably
then you
Scott.
can really
I don't think Scott
decide.
would, but-
So,
Right.
I would motion to table this until the next planning commission
Because
meeting.
we have nothing, we have no planning today, we have no planning agenda for August, and we have no ZBA for August. So we
So
have
that
some
works.
time.
We got some time.
Oh, we don't have, yeah, we don't
Actually, you're
have
not
a
gonna have a
ZBA.
public hearing.
All right.
Right, and if we go some time without a liaison, Patrick's going to the meeting anyway, he can still report out even though he's not
Right, right.
technically the
Yep,
liaison.
yep.
So I think we're covered.
Understood, okay, motion by Thorne,
I'll support that.
second by Brzezowski. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. That
Phew.
brings us to new
Beat that
business. Item B, proposed zoning ordinance amendment sign language. In your packet, you have a very nicely done report with strikeouts showing what's being removed and what's being added. I think it looks really good, but Sally, if you would like to make some comments. Pardon?
Well, it's
I-
Leanne's
Yeah,
memo.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Gillum asked me, or asked our office to prepare and look into this issue.
Okay,
just
yes.
Due to the, kind of some court rulings and what have you that brought some of these changes to the forefront. Also, with the election season in mind, he was hoping that maybe, and I don't know at this point, it's how quickly these
Election signs.
things can get put in place as far as, getting everything actually approved to get the ordinance effective before, but that was kind of the idea of it. So a lot of that, it is to clean up as it's stated in here, to get a content neutral basis to our ordinance. And kind of the very general rule for that is if you have to read the sign to be able to regulate it, then that's content-based, and that's not, again, it's a very general idea of it, but that's kind of the idea. The Supreme Court has said that, to protect free speech, you can't regulate in kind of those manners. But, of course, you can regulate size, number, types, safety features, things like that. So we just try to clean up what we already had. We weren't trying to reinvent the wheel with this and go do a complete overhaul, which, we could have, but that kind of wasn't the intent here. Small community, not a huge deal with, commercial signs and things like that, like what apparently Commerce, I know that
Well,
Mr. Weber
yeah,
said
we
they had
did,
issues.
we did review this a couple of years back. I don't know how many years ago. Do you remember, Sally? Was
It's
it
a
that
long
long?
time ago.
Seems like it was
Yeah.
yesterday.
No, it's nicely wordsmithed down, and that's why I'm sorry I mistook it for Sally's fantastic work. But no, nice work. It's very,
Thank you.
cleaned up and easier to understand and, all that. That's not easy to do either.
I know we did discuss, I think that was when we were getting some of the electronic signs.
Yeah, we did do an electronic.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was what really prompted us to look into it and try to figure out how to be able to regulate signs like that and some of the, the banners that,
Yeah.
freestanding banners that people were putting out. So I know we looked at it back then and we tried to incorporate some of those things into it, so.
That
Which
may
were-
have even been before the Supreme Court ruling.
Well, I'm sure it was,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But those, again, were more, which is good, like type of sign things, not what they say, but how they're being displayed for distraction.
Right.
So when did the Supreme Court ruling come into effect?
Oh,
It's
I
been-
want to say, it's been a while. It might have been I want to say 2015.
So we're probably one of the last communities to do this.
No, you're not.
Everyone's trickling, and there's
Yeah.
a lot, in all honesty, too. In my mind, or kind of our office's position, is to just be a little more conservative, maybe just to kind of take that option, but a lot of other communities there's a lot of gray area where they really do still want to be able to regulate certain types by what they're there for, not so much what type of sign. So there is some varying, but that, in my mind, leaves you open to being challenged, which is just a court, unnecessary litigation, potentially, when I don't see a real threat here to just, or a need kickback to what we've proposed here. The main thing that we would like you to focus on, and Sally and Shayna can perhaps add some information or answer questions to that, are the option 1 and option 2 where we have, because in the village, the big deal is, the temporary signs, more so, just with the small residential lots, majority of that, and especially like during election time, things going up, when can they come down, and that's another thing, is a regulating of you have to take this type of sign down 5 days after the event, or whatever, that kind of stuff, when you have to treat everything equally. So if someone wants to just say, I love life, they can leave that sign out forever. Really, if it's a small temporary sign, as long as it doesn't go over the size limit or the number limit that we have. But it poses the problem with all those election signs that they will just sit out there forever after an election, but you can't, it's more difficult to say, well, you can leave I love life out, that's your free speech, but an election sign saying I support Trump or I support Harris or whoever, the election's over, you have to take that off your property. Well, that's a content-based thing. So it gets tricky there, where you cannot, just because it's a political sign, necessarily say you got to get rid of it. So there's 2 options to doing that, to just try and just limit the number of signs, temporary signs of any type, whether it be like a garage sale sign, and that even would kind of include, it also includes, in this case, for sale signs. So someone wouldn't be prohibited from their selling their house. And a lot of communities have like a separate section that says you can have one sign of a certain size during the period where your home may be for sale. So you're not saying so you could put an extra I love life sign or something if your home's for sale, but of course the idea is you're gonna put a for sale sign. But just with the way the existing sign ordinance is with the village, that wasn't really necessary to get it broken down, that I didn't think, unless, Sally has a different idea of it, just because we are allowing a certain number of signs temporary, so they would just have to choose, well, if I have a bunch of other signs when I'm gonna sell my house, well, then maybe they're gonna have to take the other signs down and put their for sale sign up, kind of idea with that.
And
So-
just as a note, the township's election sign verbiage and timing is exactly duplicate to what you've suggested here, the 45 days, the 15 days.
And that's what I did. So.
And the same 32 square feet as well.
32 is not, the township is, it is for the commercial, certain
the commercial.
districts.
Okay.
But the township, unless I'm looking at the wrong, but I pulled it up off the website, it was much more restrictive. And that's what Sally I had just initially done option 1, which was not like what George is talking about. Then Sally said, well, I think you should allow for more signs during an election period, because it just should. And then I was kind of had a quandary, because I didn't want it to be, well, that's regulating speech. But in thinking about it, it's really not. They could put anything they want. Anybody could put any extra signs up during this election period. Of course, it's just going to probably be election signs, but they could just put anything they wanted. So we're not really regulating the content of the sign, the speech, but just common sense, it's going to be more election signs. And then requiring the removal for it that way. So that was a good suggestion, and when she suggested that, I went and I looked at Commerce Townships, thinking it would be good to have continuity with them, because we are part of the township technically. And the option 2 is what they did, but the numbers are different. So you can play with any of those numbers that you think. I know Sally thinks that they're kind of low, at least on option 2, the number of signs, but I'm looking at it, apparently Commerce Township, non-commercial properties, just the residential, on non-election time, they only allow 1 temporary sign, which does not exceed 6 square feet in size and 30 inches in height. But they do have the extra provision that I was talking about to allow a separate for sale sign.
But they,
Unless this is an old
I'm trying to go
version,
through
but-
the myriad of pages here, but I think it's any individual sign can't be more than the 6 foot, but you can have cumulative to 32, or am I wrong on that? Meaning you could have more than one.
It just says site standard temporary sign, a single non-illuminated temporary sign may be displayed at non-vacant parcel in accordance with the following. And then all districts, except B, T, L, M, and I, which I think are the more commercial or industrial, it just says they shall not exceed 6 square feet in size and 30 inches in height. So a single, one sign.
Okay.
And then in the other districts, the B, T, L, M, and I, they, signs, then it's plural there.
That's commercial and industrial.
Shall not exceed 32 square feet in size and 6 feet in height. So they distinguish commercial and non, which we're not really distinguishing between commercial and non-commercial here, so.
We don't have a lot of commercial anyways.
But I can tell you, for instance, the option 1, which is the unlimited number, and then as long as square footage does not exceed 32 feet. There were a few communities, and Lyon Township was one of them. I can't think of the other, if it's Milford maybe has a similar, that number there.
So that's 32 square feet cumulative?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And just for your reference, a typical yard sign is 3 square feet,
Mhm.
2 by 1.5. So if you had 32, if you had up to 32 square feet, that could be
10 of them, almost 10 of them.
Almost 10 of them.
9, yeah.
And that's at all times.
So option
That's
1
enough.
says you can have that all year round. Unlimited.
Correct.
Now,
Ugh.
just a quick
I
question.
kinda-
Well, we can
That's-
change
that's a lot.
that like, that's for you guys to think, because Sally did point out too, that how Wolverine Lake generally does have small lots.
And the other
So
caveat to that.
that's a lot for a
the
small
other-
lot.
Yeah, the other caveat to that is it's not supposed to be in the road right away.
Right.
Is there a definition of temporary?
Uh,
Does that, when you said you can
I think
have
we
it all
did.
year round, if it's a temporary sign, that would
There-
be imply that it's a temporary sign.
Right.
It's not.
It does
Temporary
say-
construction.
There
type
is
sign.
one.
Right, so if you have like a wall
Period.
side window sign.
Yeah, wall side window, you could leave it up all year
You
round.
can leave it up all, as long as the sign lasts.
Might not make it all the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we-
But if you preserve it.
It was more of, it was
It
just
doesn't
kind
have
of
a
like,
time frame on it.
if it lasts, pretty much.
So however long the sign
Can't be
material lasts.
permanently anchored.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
But is that something that could be changed if you wanted to go the route of allowing that option 1?
Well, that might be
Could
kind of a
change
pain
the
too then, to try to
temporary
figure out,
change
But
how long's it been up?
Exactly.
I just put it up yesterday, you
Enforcement
know?
would be,
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
wasn't Dave-
I haven't seen any, in my research of that, I guess I wasn't specifically looking out for it, but I haven't seen anything limiting a temporary sign to a
Period of time.
period. It's just supposed to be like common sense, I guess, that. it's
Wasn't
supposed-
Dave trying to address the election sign blight?
Mhm.
Meaning that where somebody doesn't win, they just leave their signs.
Right.
Wherever they put them. And then it's up to the village then to figure out, well, when can I now go and destroy this sign?
Right.
When's it been abandoned? And by putting those limits on,
That,
then it makes it clear.
that 15 days past period seems really nice. Just say, hey, 60
It's
days
2
past the
weeks.
election,
Yeah.
they're gone. Doesn't matter how long, when you put them up, it's gone.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's smart.
And that time frame does just, like, again, it's community to community, they vary it with, Sally had other language that she had proposed for me to review, just from for other communities, but in the end, I thought, well, I'll do Mirror Commerce Township in this case, because it was doing basically the same
I think
thing.
that makes a lot of sense.
Sally was saying,
You know,
so.
personally, 2 weeks after election day is way too much.
I think so too, but at least it's a limit. It's
By
not just-
then, day after election day would be fine.
Yeah, right, it'd be nice.
We could
2
shorten
weeks,
it.
2 weeks
It
works.
allows for reasonable time, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's,
What if they're out of town?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have to,
Yeah.
and people have to run around and pick them up. So,
Sure.
I mean, that makes sense.
Now, what do we think about the 32 square feet, a 4 by 8 foot
I
sign?
think that's a lot.
Given the small size of the yards and things like that, do we want somebody posting a 4 by 8 foot sign in their yard?
Billboard.
That's
Yeah,
that's why I
that's-
like option 2.
I do too.
Section B.
I do as well.
Personally, the community I work in, it's a contentious subject, signs, temporary signs, every community, and we deal with legal all the time related to enforcement, and so I appreciate this coming before, the board here, and the way I'm looking at it, option 2, for the amount of signs total, 2 being there, and then the total amount of square feet, that's consistent with what we see in the community that I'm in. So, I don't know, for what it's worth.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
as
for
well.
residential districts, I think 2 is adequate, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that, no, not that I.
See, well, then, the other thing I wanted to mention, if this is also including real estate signs, then that could potentially be a problem as well, because that's something we struggle with also in the community that I'm in. Our current ordinance is rather old for our sign ordinance, and the real estate, there is a separate section for real estate signs,
True.
and that's
For
something that,
development, yeah.
that we continue to struggle with. It's more than 8 square feet. I'm trying to recall the total. I want to say it's around 12, but that's something we get pushback all the time on. So, is 8 square feet enough for a real estate sign?
I mean, how big is a real estate sign usually, 2 by 4 or?
Yeah, for
Well,
for residential though, I mean,
Yeah,
I can understand for a
8.
commercial property, but for
Right.
residential, I think it's
Yeah, I
adequate.
think residential, I think, what,
2 by 3.
2 by 3 maybe?
Right.
Yeah, so 6.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
But
unless you're putting
if you're on a corner lot, they might have one on each street too, possibly, so.
Well, that would
Possibly.
be something you could allow.
Or one on the lakefront.
And maybe the.
Yeah,
square
Yeah,
footage-
that's exactly right, yeah, that's
maybe
perfect.
The square footage is road frontage.
I do think we should have a separate one for real estate signs, like most villages do, or most communities do. Because, once again, the whole time, like if you limit it to 45 days, or.
I guess the other thing is, I mean, how many signs do you see out in people's yards around here, though? Not a whole lot.
No.
So, if we're gonna allow maybe 2 real estate signs and maybe make it a little bit more square feet, is it gonna be a problem? That's what I'm saying. Because, I mean, it's not an issue currently, I don't think. I mean, we're basically trying to curb 2 things here. We're trying to curb the election issue signs, and we're trying to conform with the Supreme Court ruling. So that's the way I see it. I mean, unless it becomes a problem, I mean, we're not gonna go hog wild and have 32 square foot signs around, but I'm saying, make it big enough that we can allow for a couple real estate signs. And I don't think it's, hasn't been an issue signage wise around.
And I think this well, one question. So on real estate, if there is let's take our favorite property on South Commerce. If that was going to be rezoned or petitioned to be rezoned, there's a certain sized sign that has to go up demonstrating it needs to be rezoned. Does that get, or this doesn't, we're not worried about that?
That could be more of like a
That's almost like.
site development.
But they're just complying with the regulations in the ordinance, so I don't think you would.
Okay, so we don't have to worry
count
about that
as-
then?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't count it against this.
Towards something like
ordinance.
this,
No.
yeah.
They're required to do that.
Makes sense.
So, but Brian, to your point is, so it sounds like everybody's gearing towards option 2, but the concern is option 2, temporary signs 1, is where the maximum number of 2 and the maximum
Area,
square
8 square feet.
What if we moved
of
that to
8.
12?
So if you, or I was gonna say, even if you doubled it, so if you made the maximum number 4 and the maximum square footage 12.
I don't have a problem,
then-
I don't have a problem with 2 even, I mean, you know, maybe 2 or 3,
No,
but.
in all
but
honesty-
8 square
But
feet
just
is
make
where
it
I'm
8 square
thinking.
feet to something bigger.
Maybe
that's-
something a little bit more.
Just to allow for 2 real estate signs, like,
Right.
like you said, one on the lakefront.
One
on the-
lakefront, one in the front yard.
Right, so that would be
Lakefront.
12.
The only reason I put 2 down, and for discussion purposes, because Commerce Township
Commerce is
had,
consistent with it.
had one.
Okay.
one was 6 feet,
I mean, I
so,
think-
except for then the separate provision for their for sale signs.
I think we're okay with 2, I think just the area maybe increased to 12, or just to allow for 2 real estate signs. But, so, all right, hypothetically, if you got your house up for sale, you probably wouldn't be putting political signs out there, but then are you limited to not putting any other signs out there?
You could put any signs you wanted up to that, whatever
Yeah,
number we're gonna say, so.
Right, so if we have 12 square foot and you have 2 real estate signs, one on the lakefront, one on the back, there's no more signs
Mm-hmm. Right.
allowed.
So you can't have a
Correct.
Except for
graduation
election
sign.
periods.
Right.
Garage sale.
Then, now that,
Got it.
the
Okay.
second
Okay.
section kicks
Okay.
in.
Correct.
So now you're allowed up to
But no other
24
signs,
square feet.
don't put a wall side window sign out there saying, hey, I got new windows on my new house, that's for sale.
That's for sale. Yeah.
Right?
So is the 2 too limiting? I'm just thinking, you get, somebody's graduating, somebody's having a garage sale.
And for sale. Yeah.
Yeah.
the house
And
is
garage
for
sale, and it's for sale, estate sale. because
They're
it's
for
for
And they
sale.
just put new windows in.
And they put new windows in,
If it
gutters.
is, yeah. I don't know.
I think you guys should be more lenient.
A little bit.
I would.
Yeah.
That's
Do we
pretty
want to do
small.
maximum number 4 and then do 20 square feet?
No, I would say, my suggestion, 4 and 12, or 4 and 16.
4 and 16?
4 and 16.
You've got relatively small lots.
Yeah,
So-
And
majority of them are.
And the majority are not gonna be lakefront, where they're gonna have signs on
Right.
both sides,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
So you could
I
allow
agree.
more messages, but keep the,
Keep the
Yeah.
square
Size
footage area,
small.
size down.
So we went to 4
4
and
and
then
16, yeah, I like that.
Well, that's gonna give you a 4 square foot sign then.
do you
I-
feel
I would
4
say
feet
4
is
and 12.
a
Because
good
it's like you said,
height?
you've got, now you've
That's
got
great.
4.
That's good.
I think it is.
4 foot, 4 foot,
Four
or 2
pretty large
2 foot by
signs.
2 foot.
16 square feet.
Those signs usually aren't square.
Yeah, maybe.
4 and 12?
4 and 12, because it could give you 2 by 1.5 foot sign.
What's,
Yeah, I
I'd go
think
4
that's,
and 12.
I think that works.
4 and 12?
Yep,
That would be my recommendation.
yeah, I like that.
But I have
Can
a
I ask
question
one other
too.
question? Oh.
If we could go back to, because we are back to page 2, section B here, where it says the following new definitions are proposed to be added. And I like the language to all of them, but question being, we have sign temporary as a definition, and below
Mhm.
that, we have sign yard. So
Mhm.
now, are the yard sign,
Yeah,
yard
maybe.
signs included in the temporary signs? It seems like they would be, but that, just for
I'd
point of
say-
clarity.
It should be, yes, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was the intent, but yeah, maybe that's,
Yard sign's a subset of temporary sign.
right, so maybe I can reword that to make it less confusing too.
Are they regulated
Clear.
differently?
No,
So do you
I don't,
regulate
well,
both of them?
yeah, that's very true, although,
I mean, maybe then, for option 2, on page 4, instead of temporary signs, it says
I guess
temporary
sign
and yard sign.
maybe
I don't know.
the temporary sign was more geared towards, like a, yeah, what are the, sandwich signs or
Oh.
something
Oh,
like
the
that,
flag
but I
sign.
don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I think yard sign should be a subset of temporary sign. I mean,
Because it is
a permanent
temporary.
sign is cemented in the ground or
Permanent.
fixed to the ground in a permanent way, whether that's cement, large posts, structural almost, whereas temporary is whether it's wires or.
Well, do you need
Portable.
to have a yard sign? I mean, what's?
You could just say
Right.
temporary signs such as yard signs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You could remove yard signs.
Just, I mean, why have a separate
If you
category
don't-
for
Leave it
it?
in temporary and then just add.
Just
very
kind of add the
basic.
verbiage to the
Okay.
temporary signage.
Okay, that sounds good.
Can I ask a question on electronic signs? Because this was one of the big items that was coming before the township, where with the new technology on LEDs, the electronic, literally, they're TV commercials
Yes.
being displayed.
Right.
And we did not want that, because you could imagine what Union Lake Road would look like.
You're gonna distract
if they
people,
were
yeah.
all-
Like a mini
you know, all-
Vegas.
If every monument sign was or building sign was of the new technology. So the discussion we had, a sign, particularly a commercial sign, the intent was to note the location of a business, so people could find the business. It wasn't, other than gas stations changing pricing, it wasn't to advertise special of the day or put a commercial out there, in effect. So we limited that on the electronic signs specifically, to not allow signs that created motion of any kind. And I'm not sure our language covers that.
I thought
It talks
it
about
did.
mechanical,
Because that's what we,
Movement.
that's the way we brought it up when we had those
So-
electronic signs.
So
wasn't
it says, so signs which
That was
incorporate, so
definitely-
prohibited would be signs which incorporate any manner of flashing or moving lights. And if that covers like an LED script,
it would.
then I think we're,
I
okay.
think it
Then
would.
I think, but this does
That was the
not
way we
include-
intended it too, because there was a lot of those little LED flashing signs, even open or whatever. I mean, we had that discussion when we put this in effect.
But it says, but it
Right.
kind of modifies, so signs which incorporate any manner of flashing or moving lights, period. This does not include the change from one message to the next message on an electronic message sign. So to me, that says you can have the commercial out there.
Yeah.
You could be flipping anything you
Well-
want on a,
The way,
on a constant
I guess
basis.
the way it was intended, because that was what we put in down on our message sign down at the village, so we want to make sure that that conformed. But I can see what you're saying, George.
So
Yeah.
and forgive me for not going through, I think what the township did is you can have the message move, but it's actually regulated. You can only have so many messages.
Per minute.
Per minute.
And we had that
So
discussion
it-
too.
And that would be, that'd be fine too.
Probably
And
can't
it,
change
and it
colors.
keeps it, yeah. and
We
it's-
didn't
and-
pin it down in the ordinance, but I remember we
I've
talked
seen that
about it.
before, though.
Yeah.
But it's also, this technology is kind of new. It used to be you just had the,
Mhm.
like the village sign. Now, the
Yeah.
technology is literally your LED TV in your house.
It can't change within 30 seconds or something.
Um, And I can,
I appreciate that, and I know what you mean, like a TV, that, and I think that's what they're here with, just one sign to the next, kind of what Ryan was saying. So I don't know if necessarily the village, if that's gonna be, you wanna be proactive, but if that's as much of an issue that there would be.
It would only be probably in a commercial
I just
issue.
think if we're opening up the ordinance,
Right.
let's try to, if there's
Pin it down
something
if
to
we
be.
can.
There's also, they actually got into how bright the sign could be. So
Oh, the
how many
illumination.
lumens it could be, which I think is also,
I think that's a good thing to add.
if-
Some of those are really bright. There's that
Right.
store on Telegraph, I think that sign store that they had, it was like
It's-
the Super Bowl when you drive by.
Then
Yeah.
it blinds you.
It blinds you,
Trying to
yeah.
Right.
drive in this dark
Right.
road.
Yep,
and
yep.
Can't see.
so if, I guess my suggestion would be to look at some of the language, whether it's Commerce or some of the surrounding communities, on how bright the signs can be and what the motion can be, so that it's, in the end, it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
What you don't want is somebody reading a commercial as they're driving by.
You might be able to verbalize that in section 4 there too, subsection 4.
Right.
Yeah.
By saying something to the effect that, it can't, the intensity can't be distracting, or something to that effect.
But I think if we don't specifically say how many lumens and how many, then it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
What's-
I'm trying to find what township, I do know they wrote.
So
yeah,
that it's
this
on
includes-
page 3, it talks about how bright it can be, and Somewhere else in here is language that speaks to how fast it can move, how fast the message can rotate.
They've got it done, that's
Is there a DOT guideline somewhere?
probably not.
I don't,
Like,
I
like
don't know the
billboards
answer
or
to
something like that that they might have to follow that we can look at?
So this, and all this came from, the township had a limit, one billboard. And that's because there was some kind of litigation, so the billboard by the by the overpass
Mhm.
was allowed. And then we were threatened with litigation, multi-million-dollar litigation, if we didn't allow another sign, which is right now, which is at 14 Mile and M5. It's a smaller one. And the settlement was whoever the high-powered attorney, and they were citing the Austin, Texas case, which was, I think, the most recent Supreme Court one, that they helped draft the language in our sign ordinance to be as bulletproof as possible. So that was part of the settlement. We said, okay, you can put the sign up, you don't sue us, but then you have to help craft language that makes it more bulletproof. But it is different, because it's obviously the commercial, there's not nearly as much commercial here. But you just hate to see Glengarry all of a sudden get lit up with whatever build, it's whether it's multi-use or whatever, or the party store or whatever, start having distracting signs.
Yeah, big billboard right over the dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do see it also talks about luminous tube lighting neon shall not be directly visible. Also, so I don't know how in-depth would you want to go?
If I may, there is language in our sign ordinance about luminous already. Singular sign ordinance.
I thought we covered some of that.
Enforce it.
Is that in?
Because I remember we discussed it.
It's in our language.
Oh, so maybe it's already,
There is, now how old it is and what kind of lumens it says, but it's in there.
Maybe I didn't copy the whole thing.
I don't think this is the whole.
Yeah. Every
so this
section.
isn't the whole sign ordinance then,
No.
these
No,
6 pages?
no, it's
Oh.
not.
There
I
is
just-
a section about electronic signs, but it's not in this memo from the.
Yeah, I only copied the sections that were gonna have changes to them. So. yeah,
Tabitha, you know what this section is?
It's in the sign section somewhere. I don't have a book with me, so I don't have this number.
I should have brought the book too.
Let's see.
So if there's, and maybe we should see what it is, if there's already lumens in the old ordinance, it's probably at a much lower rate than what's anticipated now, just because of technology. And the movement of signs is just, I think it's covered in a real simple, it just says prohibited, and it's on page 5, Leanne.
Yep.
But it just says moving signs or animated signs, devices, or figures. And any sign that was enacted or in place prior to this ordinance is grandfathered in. That's what they did. So that could be a way that you can get the village sign in, because it's,
I've got 127606, daylight luminance not to exceed 62,000 candelas
Per square,
per square meter squared.
Or 40,000 lux illumination beginning.
that's exactly what the township has as well.
Okay.
Those exact same, so it's 62 candelas.
Yes.
40,000 lux illumination
Yes.
and
Half hour after sunrise
Yep.
till half hour before sunset. Okay, so the way that's.
Doesn't exceed 375 candles per meter square, 4 lux illumination and all the other times.
Right, so that's, we're
We
correct,
probably lined up back then.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's no need to change any of that, I wouldn't think.
No.
Yeah, we're good.
I think we just focus
Oh,
on
there
what we
you go.
do need
It's
to
in
change.
the
Damn,
office.
we must have known what we were doing.
Yeah,
How about it?
all right, us.
But do you want to say anything about moving signs? Or can you just eliminate the last part of that sentence?
Take a look in there again.
Shall
So
not
it
be,
says
it
signs
says shall
that
not
you-
be animated, flashing, or scrolling. Frequency of the message change shall be restricted to no more than 8 times a day. There's an area, maximum area, height, and then the brilliance, glare cannot impair the vision, and then that's where the maximum
Moving
luminaire
revolving.
candle is.
Mechanical movement.
Or on there,
Intermediate
so-
electronic
So Leanne, how does
pulsation.
that equate to what you have on page 2, where, page 2, section 2, beam 1, where it says this does not include the change from one message to the next? Because what you said, it's limited to 8 times a day, which seems reasonable. So it's,
Yeah, so that's,
Any manner
it's
of
office
prohibit any
district
manner of
signs.
flashing or moving
So it looks like
lights.
the
Prohibit.
intent is
Mhm.
that
So
those are
moving
only
messages
allowed
are
moving
in
lights, so
in
those
office,
are
in the
prohibited.
office
Not moving-
district,
moving
that
lights.
type of sign. So,
Yeah, I don't think electronic signs are permitted.
in commercial, oh, well, this is in the office.
I
That's-
don't remember.
Well, under
Wall
planning,
mounted
under
Are allowed
under
in an office district subject to wall-mounted electronic message signs, wall-mounted, are allowed in an office district and are subject to. The display shall not be animated, flashing, or scrolling, and that's what we said, I guess it's kind of the same, isn't it?
Flashing or moving,
Any
yeah.
manner of flashing or moving
Yep.
lights.
Yeah,
but what about a monument sign? If the Eagles took their monument sign and wanted to turn it into a TV, so it's not mounted to a...
Eagles would be in C1, so. Are there specific provisions in the commercial district?
I'd only see that as allowed for the office district. Residential, so we have general limitations, then residential, office and commercial district signs, which are, they're governed by regulations for residential district uses. And then you have some wall-mounted identification signs, then the area and number, location, freestanding, oh, yep, wall-mounted message signs, wall-mounted electronic message signs are allowed in a commercial district. They're subject to the same regulations that I just read. So, again, a wall-mounted, so freestanding electronic message are also allowed in commercial. And they are also subject to those same, to the same regulations just
Which is
stated.
8 times a day, and the lumens and,
Mhm.
okay.
Correct.
So, when I don't understand on page 2 of the document you sent, again,
Those
section
are
1.
general limitations, but go ahead.
But,
Ernie.
okay, so that's just, so the fact that says this does not include changing from one message to the next message on an electronic sign
Correct.
doesn't negate anything you just said on the others, on the other section.
No, well, except for it, what I said for the other section, it adds to it by saying you can have the change, but it's gonna be only 8 times an
Okay.
hour, is that what I
8
said?
times per day.
8 times a day.
So we don't have to say that then under this section 1276.03.
I don't-
Subsection
No.
4,
Um,
B4.
It was the first
I
section.
mean, I don't think it
Yeah.
conflicts with it
Okay.
in any manner.
That's
but,
all I was
um,
trying to make sure is it wasn't conflicting.
It's just
with
not
that.
as detailed, I guess, as to that. But that's, yeah, because it's not going to be, those signs are not going to be allowed in any district. So the residential district, those wouldn't be allowed, but then it says it doesn't apply to the changing from one message to the other, which then gets more detailed because those types of signs are allowed in the commercial and office districts.
Okay, so, and forgive my, or not, maybe I'm not following, but does that also allow for the, even if it's changing just 8 times a day, does it allow for the TV screens out there? Would that be considered just a message that would change 8 times a day?
I don't think so. I don't know how you could interpret watching a television as.
Changing 8 times a
changing
day.
8 times a day.
Okay,
And
Moving
no
lights,
animation,
flashes.
moving,
No,
yeah.
moving is.
Plus, those are so bright, they're probably gonna exceed the candela and, right? I mean, those are.
Tone it down.
I mean, yeah, unless they dim them down, but what's the point of spending that much on a sign if you're gonna dim it down, you know?
If you are more comfortable, I mean, you could add language that said no television.
For a total of 60 days, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, are they just?
Correct.
Done deal. I think it works.
Yeah. I think it's good.
So the language on page 4 and page 5 is very similar. At first, for now, like during this whole discussion, I've been looking at the language on page 4, the option 1 and option 2. But page 5 is basically the same thing, but it's
Oh,
about
whoops.
residential districts specifically.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to bring that up and make sure, we acknowledge both
Oh,
pages and
correct, yeah.
um, address them however
Thank you for
everyone
that.
feels fit, yeah.
Mhm.
Good eye.
So the
Good
language
point.
on page 4 is just under the general limitations, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
And then the language on page 5 is under the residential district.
Yes.
Did you want them to be the same?
Should we match those?
I would
So-
say match
They
them.
Match
are
'em.
matched. Oh, no,
Well,
they aren't matched.
match 'em
Thank
with
you.
the
Yes,
changes
I
that
just
we're doing.
automatically presumed, yes.
I did too.
I
Yeah.
perfectly understand what she's saying, though.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
good catch.
Okay, so we're just changing option 2B, really, and we're getting rid of option 1 as a no-go.
Right.
And then option 2, we are changing it to maximum number of 4 and 12 square feet. And then I believe, yeah, it's worded just a tiny little bit different. But yeah, same.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's going to be consistent in both sections.
Yep.
So do we need a motion to do anything on that?
You need to schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
Motion to schedule a public hearing
For next month?
for
Our next-
next meeting.
Next
Planning
meeting.
commission meeting.
All right, motion by.
It'll probably be next month.
All right, a motion by.
We're going to try to slide this in
Thorne.
before November.
All right, motion by Thorne,
Second.
second by Nedrow, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion carries. All right, good job, folks. That brings us to liaison reports.
Yeah, one other thing, we had another
Yes.
public hearing that was required for our setbacks, language that we changed was in May.
Right.
So it seems if we're gonna have a public hearing, we might as well cover both
Kind of
topics.
combine
That was the
them.
idea.
Yes,
Yeah,
excellent,
so let's do
Perfect.
both, yeah.
agreed.
I'm glad you remembered that far back,
Yeah,
Brian.
good memory, Brian.
Tabitha's
That clean
got it.
air coming up, you
Tabitha's
know.
got it all
knows.
figured
Yeah, I'm
out.
telling you,
Helping your mind.
Those retired guys can have that, you know?
2 years ago.
Oh, man, I knew that, but I forgot that. All right, well,
Got
that
time to
now
think.
brings us to council liaison reports. Mr. Nedrow.
Let's see, May was our last meeting, so I gotta do 2 months.
Okey-doke.
Okay, I'll do it fast. July 1, GFL took over, or Priority Waste took over for GFL. If nobody doesn't know that already. There's been minor glitches, but it's been pretty decent up until last week. They approved the Claire Miller sports, new play structure is going forward. So they should be starting on that in the next, hopefully, short period of time. We approved our budget. So everything is status quo on that. We let the road paving program move forward, and which everybody knows that that is moving forward. So that was June. July. We authorized call it the Clara Miller Sports Court for repairs. So they're, the basketball courts and the roller hockey courts are gonna be, the cracks are gonna be fixed. It's gonna be resurfaced. We're adding 4 pickleball courts.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they're gonna be fixing the tennis
The little
courts
tennis
also.
courts,
Adding a little pavement over there.
Sorry, Brian, I missed that. So the hockey is gonna be now,
It's still gonna be intact.
Yeah, the roller hockey be there.
Roller hockey will be
Next to it,
there.
they're gonna put 4 pickleball courts in, but they're gonna
On the
resurface the
south
whole
side.
thing.
Oh,
They're-
okay.
They're basically gonna fix the cracks and then put a sealing surface with, actually, it's gonna be colored surface, it's gonna be
Mhm.
real nice.
Yeah.
It's gonna be marked. So the 4 pickleball courts on the south side of the roller hockey court and just west of the basketball area.
Okay.
So, and those will all be lined up and everything, so.
Wow.
New fencing's going in, so. And we're spending a lot of money on parks.
Good investment.
Yeah, it is. Probably overdue. Thank goodness for the American
rescue?
Rescue Act, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, we authorized for a BMX track too. Where the little bike jump was down there, that's been down there for eons, yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
we're
the-
using some of
all
the
the
millings, from the road paving project, dumping those over there.
Awesome.
And, so they're gonna put a course in there,
Fantastic.
which was on our master plan, recreation master
Mhm.
plan, so. We had, we actually put in place our new police chief, Chris Sovic, and John Ellsworth actually had a retirement party on, or get together, I guess you could say, on last Saturday, and his last day is August 1st. So after, what, 27 years, Tabitha?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll be missed, but got a good department going
He'll
forward.
be happy. Yeah. He'll be missed, but he'll be happy.
And back in June, we did settle agreements with the PD and DPW. And we also gave the village staff some bumps. So, other than that, I think that was about it. You think of anything else? That pretty much covers it.
All right.
Good.
Thank you for the great report, Mr. Nedrow. That brings us to Mr. Lindman for Parks and Rec.
All right, yep, Parks and Rec's been busy. We've had Tuesdays in the Park events already in June and July. Got our 3rd one coming up in August here. Those have been going well. We had an added event, the dog show they did on June 22nd. We had good turnout for that, and it was a lot of fun. Had some good prizes donated by local businesses and everything. Got our summer garage sale kicking off in a week. Fishing contest coming up August 10th. And then the corn roast is the big event on September 7th. We're looking forward to having the playground and everything in by then, and that's going to
Hopefully.
cause some reconfiguring of our corn roast
Yeah.
event and things. But, yep, it's all going well and under control and well planned, and the events coming off. We get plenty of volunteer help to make things happen, and it's all worked out well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lindman. That's an excellent report. And that brings us to ZBA with, yes.
Yes.
Or Brandon's last. We'll get Brandon's
No,
last.
I wasn't there.
Oh, that's right.
So we had, we've reviewed 3 cases since our last meeting here in planning in May. So in June, we actually had 2 separate meetings. We had our regular meeting on June 18th, where we heard 2 cases. ZBA case 24-737, which was 814 Wolverine Drive. And that essentially was the applicant wanted to reconstruct an existing deck that had been there for a long time that was kind of starting to be dilapidated and so forth. And so they needed a variance for the setback for the R1-LF for the adjoining properties to the water's edge. Basically, that the average was 67 feet, and they had proposed 33.2 to reconstruct, as mentioned, the existing deck that had been there. So that ultimately was approved. And then the next case, case number 24-738, which was at 2366 Ellington Street. The applicant was proposing to extend a privacy fence that he had a portion of it built on his property, but the conflict was the way his property is oriented. The village considered him to have 2 front yards, and it is a little unique in that the second front yard, quote unquote, really, I don't know how we describe that. It doesn't have a physical address. And for a while, it may have been owned by the village. It may have.
Yeah, it's part of the, one of those unknowns, but it's actually not a village, but it's kind of
Right.
part of the neighbor.
It doesn't have a
Association.
parcel. It doesn't have a
Association.
parcel
Subdivision
ID.
is association lot?
And people can park their cars there
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so.
Road ending or whatever, yeah.
So you wanted a
One of
privacy
those-
fence?
So yeah, he wanted to extend it just a little bit further from where it was. That ultimately was approved.
Because that was just
Good.
gonna be parking cars and what have you
Yeah.
anyway, so.
And then the third case, which was on the docket for the 18th, we didn't have a quorum, so we did a special meeting the following week. I believe it was on the following Wednesday. But that was for 1635 Shanken, case number 24-736. And that was, the applicant was proposing to build a new house on the vacant lot. Well, I apologize, it's not vacant. It did have a house on it, but they're proposing to tear that down and build a new one. So they need a variance for front yard setback and lakefront setbacks. And that was approved with support from the neighborhood and so forth, and several other conditions that met the standards. Ultimately, that was approved, so.
So I'll give it to the ZBA, they came together for an extra meeting, because the one meeting where that Patrick went over there, they could go forward with it because we had a quorum, but then this particular case, we could not because one of the members present had a conflict because she was the next door neighbor. So she couldn't participate in that one, so then they had to send it back and.
Was that the first one, the first meeting that they had, the applicant changed their mind?
Yes.
That was the
That was
same one,
yeah.
right?
Third one lined up and it
Yeah.
was,
Basically.
So still
It was a mess.
ongoing, but she got her approval, so she hopefully is happy now.
Well, thank you for bringing us up to speed with the excellent detailed report. That brings us to any announcements.
only one.
Okay?
I understand there's 5 people running for 4 spots on council in November,
Oh,
so,
exciting.
Exciting.
yeah.
Okay, I'll hear.
Cornhole boards are cut, but not assembled yet. I'm gonna do something special on them, so I'm gonna run them through my lasers for a minute.
Nice.
So,
As long as they have them for the corn roast, we're
yep,
good.
they will be there.
We're having a cornhole
And then
tournament.
somebody reached out, I forget her name, for
Linda
the
Schwartz?
bags. Yes,
Yeah.
she's doing the bags.
She got the bag, she bought those already.
Good.
All right, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By
Second.
Nedrow, second by Lindman. On discussion, all in favor?
Fastest one, you get some
Aye.
bingo.
I don't think you said that fast.